Welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijoma. And before I jump into this week's conversation, if you would like to support the podcast, please go to convome.com/support and you'll be able to do so. And now, on to my conversation. My guest this week is Philanthropy Babe. She was referred to me on that Instagram post, which you guys are going to hear me talk about for the next few months, because all my upcoming guests for the next few months, well, most of my upcoming guests for the next few months were referred as a result of that Instagram post. And if you haven't seen it, go to my Instagram and check it out at Etsy Conversations and make your recommendation. But Philanthropy Babe was referred by the Joyful Gypsy Gal. And I want to say thank you to Mary for mentioning Alison as a potential guest for the podcast. And so Alison, aka Philanthropy Babe, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you.
I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you for saying yes and going along with this whole crazy thing. I don't know if you even saw the Instagram post, but that's why you're here.
Oh, I saw it and I'm so excited. So thank you for having me.
Yes. And I forgot to say this, I will have a link to the Joyful Gypsy Gals. She's on Instagram and she has an Etsy shop by the same name. So feel free to go check her out and say thank you at the end of this conversation. So Alison, first of all, tell us who you are, how do you describe yourself, and what you do on Etsy?
Well, my name is Alison, and sometimes I go by Philanthropy Babe. Philanthropy means the love of humanity. It's a way of describing the nonprofit sector.
Yeah.
And I have a shop on Etsy called the Fundraising Shop, where I sell templates for nonprofits and nonprofit fundraisers. To help them, save time, stress less, and raise more for the causes that they're working for.
I love that. Now, how did you get into the business of fundraising and working with nonprofits?
I was actually talking with a friend about that earlier this week. It's actually, I'm very grateful to my teenage self.
Uh-huh.
When I went to college, that was a major offered at the university I was going to. And I felt very drawn to it. And I really liked all of the teachers in the nonprofit fundraising school. So that's what I majored in. And I became a certified nonprofit professional. And it's all I've ever done is work for nonprofit causes.
Nice. A lot of people sometimes, I shouldn't say a lot of people, some people sometimes run away from nonprofits because immediately you think there's no money. And, if I'm going to work, I want to make money unless I feel really passionate about, a cause. Do you find that really is a pervading perception of the nonprofit world?
Oh yeah. I see that for the term perception
Yes.
with the term nonprofit. And I think it varies. When I was in college and starting out, people would make jokes about how I would never make a lot of money. But I guess that's never been a huge goal of mine. Not that like I don't welcome abundance,
Yeah.
but service and connection and community, I think is, cores to living a wonderful life. So
Yeah.
that was part of the draw. And I make a good salary. I have benefits. Not all nonprofits can offer that, but I've never not made well over minimum wage. And now, I'm in a director role at my current position, and I'm very comfortable and grateful for what I make. My counterparts on the for-profit corporate side, yeah, they probably make much more.
Right.
And I would hope that they're happy, but I'll say like, I love what I do. And I'm like
Yeah.
genuinely very happy to go to work and get to talk about it. So that you can't put a price tag on.
Oh, I agree. Working in some of the jobs that paid me the best, I was most
Mhm.
miserable, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, the money doesn't bring the happiness if
Mhm.
you
Though it
don't
is nice
enjoy
to
what
get
you're
paid a
doing.
little bit.
Yeah, it's not, the money
Yeah.
is good. Oh, I hope that doesn't sound awful. The money
Yeah.
is good and it was enjoyable. But at the end of the day, sometimes waking up on some days and knowing what was ahead of me, I just thought, oh
Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you get the idea to start creating the templates that you do? And also, if we can just backtrack a little bit, can you
Yeah.
explain what the templates are?
Yeah, so I have a variety of templates in my shop. And so professionally what I do, and that's why they're so related, is I'm a nonprofit fundraiser. For the second time, I'm really building out the fund development department for a smaller organization. And when I was thinking of, I wanted to start a business and I was like, what kind of business do I start? I realized like my skill set is 100%. It's all in nonprofit fundraising. So
Mm,
my templates it's anything that I've been able to think of or that I've needed in a fund development department. How do I say that?
templatized.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
all of the pieces
Yeah.
that a fundraiser would need throughout the year.
And
So it's
sorry, go on, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, so it's like from, template appeals to donors to, social media to
Yeah.
policies to stewardship pieces and beyond.
And they're all specifically directed at nonprofits.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%.
You know what I really love just looking at your store
What's that?
is that people always think you have to be, you know, like a certain type of creative. And I'm looking at products in your store and I'm seeing so many with them, with that coveted X number of people have this in their cart, you know, which, is a great signal for interest and, eventually turning into sales. And you're using like a very, what people might consider a corporate skill, but it's
Mhm.
still something that is needed out there. And it just makes me happy to think that people would think and, discover that, hey, I can find this on Etsy, and they're finding you. Did you ever think that Etsy was the best place for selling your templates? And did you ever consider any other platforms?
Oh, I didn't consider any other platform. So actually, I created my first template, about a year before I actually put it on Etsy to sell it. Um,
Wow.
I would just, like, had such a mental block. I don't know, I was, like,
Yeah.
nervous. I've only ever done nonprofit fundraising, so the whole
Yeah.
idea of, like, doing a transactional selling a product thing was, it just is so different than anything I had ever done before, and my audience is nonprofit, so I was like, "Can I charge nonprofits money?" And I was like, had to dive into that. But the joyful gypsy gal who tagged me, Mary, she is wonderful, and she's actually my mom. And yeah,
Ah!
I love you, mom. Thanks. And I saw her, like she's just really has blossomed creatively over the last decade. And as a daughter, seeing her, flourish like that, it's been so wonderful and inspiring. And with her store has really got my wheels turning. I was like, I think I can do this.
Oh,
And
wow.
then leading up to, year-end campaign, if you're probably, getting letters in your mailbox from different nonprofits.
Yes.
Yeah, I hit that point in my current position. It was for my first year-end campaign, and there I always have a little bit of writer's block. And then I remembered the template that I created, and I used it to kickstart me writing our campaign letter, and was like, "Oh my gosh, this worked." Um, yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna build my shop. I'm gonna do it." And
Huh.
over Christmas break and January, I just like woke up really early every day and started creating things and was like, I'm just gonna just plow through any fear that I have and figure it out.
Yeah. How soon did you start getting sales? Do you recall?
Oh, yeah, my first day, I was like, "Oh my gosh." I, like, woke up and someone bought something at, like, 2 AM. It was so cool, and that cha-ching on your phone, stop it.
Yes. Yeah,
Um
isn't that the best?
Yeah, I was like, "What is this?" It
Yes.
was, like, 2 or 3 weeks after I had my first product up, and then really, things took off. I felt like they took off very quickly, for my shop, and I don't remember when I hit 100, but it was, within, maybe 6 weeks of starting, I had my first 100 sales, and I was like, "What is this? It's working."
That is so wild.
Yeah.
And just for context for folks who are listening, Allison started in 2022. And at the time of recording, she's just shy of 1,000 sales. And when we're recording this, it's going into her busy season. So I have no doubt you're going to finish off the year with a bang.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's so good. And I like what's even more encouraging about what you're doing is that it's a niche that not only would some people not think about, but it really brings out your skill set. And I feel that you might not have to worry as much about, others in this niche or competition, not because there isn't any or there won't be any, but because you you come with all what you come with. So I don't know how to express it. The competition won't matter because the way you do it is the way you do it. And somebody else might come along and do it differently, and that might be somebody else's style. But the people who like your style and your templates and all the experience and knowledge you bring to it will be your customers. They'll buy one template, they'll come back for others when they need them.
Yeah, and that's one thing I don't know kind of what the trends are with Etsy, but it's been really cool seeing I have a decent amount of repeat customers. I haven't done the
Yeah.
math, but I'd say about 15 to 20% of my customers come back and buy
Yep.
other types of templates, which is always really cool.
That's excellent. And that's not from and this is not scientific. This is not, I don't have any scientific evidence behind this, but I don't think that's the norm. Yes, I think people do, if you have a certain style that customers like, they will come back, but sometimes that's not always the case. A lot of people have trouble retaining customers. They get new customers, but they don't retain, like, the prior customers don't keep coming back over and over again. And so, whatever you're doing, however you figured it out, congratulations, you did it.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, how do you manage your time between, everything you have going on, working, but also running an Etsy shop, creating new
Mhm.
templates, and, handling all the administrative side of running a business?
Yeah, definitely I think that's part of the beauty of the digital product,
Hmm.
because it was a lot of work at the start. I remember
Hmm.
just, like, waking up, extra early, making coffee, and then crawling into bed with my laptop and just working on templates, and David, my fiancé, was like, "Allison, like, what are you doing?" And he didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then he started to hear the little thing on my phone and was like, "Okay, whatever you're doing."
Yeah,
Like,
I got it.
um, yeah. Yeah, but really now it's not much at all. Like, I feel like I can't even quantify how much time I have to manage. Like, maybe once every other week I'll get a message from a customer who it needs help clicking on, because my templates, sometimes they're Microsoft Word partnered with PDF, sometimes they're PDF, Word, and Canva. It depends on the type of product. Not all products need a design element, but if they
Mhm.
do, there's Canva templates that they can click on, and that's like the
Oh,
biggest thing is sometimes folks don't know what button to click on because there's a couple
okay.
downloads and they're lost. But
Yeah,
but really, like, that's what it is it's customer service,
yeah.
I would say, is the most, and that's always fun because then I get to chat with them and I always ask them what their missions are. And it's just so cool, the different types of things that people are doing that are buying templates from the shop.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to ask about that was how much education you find yourself doing. But I would imagine if somebody's coming to buy from you,
Hmm.
they understand their business already, and it might just be more technical help that they need.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the interesting thing about the nonprofit sector is people will know their missions.
Hmm.
And whether that's like there's an organization that bought some templates that's teaching young kids um, sailing
Hmm.
and like learning to love sailing. And then there's another one that they're doing emergency helicopter rides in Haiti. Like such a dramatic,
Wow.
dramatic difference in like type of organization. So they know their mission,
Yeah.
but it's the fundraising element of it that there's generally a learning curve because yeah, people you can have the heart for the mission. That then it's the question of well, how do I get money to make this
Yeah.
thing happen?
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest one.
And are your products geared solely toward US based nonprofits, or are they can they be used globally?
That's a good question. I'd say when I was doing it in my mind, I was just thinking US
Hmm.
based. Um, and I know culturally the way that fundraising works is different in different parts of the world. I don't know enough about it to be able to speak about it. So I don't know like what practices other countries are using for their philanthropic nonprofit sector. But I've had customers from Canada. I've had
Okay.
organizations that are like they're headquartered in US, but they're based elsewhere use the
Oh,
templates.
okay.
Um, so I guess my answer is yes and no.
Yeah, yeah,
Because like I don't know every org that's fine. So I don't know if I have
right.
have
Yeah.
customers from elsewhere.
And now that I think about it, I would imagine that if an organization was based internationally, they would know how to tweak the templates to
Hmm.
accommodate maybe local regulations and what
Yeah, and
have
that's
you.
what I'm not super, familiar with like
Yeah.
what the legality of fundraising is elsewhere.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, well, it's not so much the flip side, but I'm curious because I always feel like in the nonprofit world, because everything is so mission driven, everyone
Mhm.
is, like a good type of passionate about what they're doing. Have you ever had any customers that weren't happy?
Oh, I had one-star review.
No way. One?
But yeah, and I was like, well, I don't even know if it wasn't that she just um well, I accept returns and I really
Yeah.
haven't I've had maybe 2 or 3 returns. I can't remember why, but this one person, I sent her messages, I emailed her, like she didn't respond to any of that after I got the one-star review, but she said she just didn't know how to log on to Canva.
Oh,
So she left me a one-star review, which was really upsetting, but I don't think that was against the product. I think she just didn't understand how to use the
yeah.
systems and we weren't able to connect. But I did email her all of her templates and I sent her some messages and I gave her a refund even though she didn't request it.
Yeah. Oh,
But
man.
it
Ah,
happens.
I know. Yes, I most of all dislike the ones that are user error,
Yeah,
where
I
you
know.
get rated badly because of user error. You're like, hello, the problem is
Yeah.
you.
Like, do you know is I'm a tiny business? Be
Yes.
nice to
Yeah,
me.
I know, right? But sometimes I feel like it does help when they say certain things. Like if she had said, I don't even know how to get access to this. And then, folks know, okay, she couldn't figure it out. It wasn't that the
Mhm.
product itself was bad. Sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like those negative reviews, if they say enough, they can actually be helpful.
Because then people are like, "Oh, wait, wasn't the shop." Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's kind of how her review was. I actually had
Yeah.
a friend mention, she was like, "Your response was so nice to that person who just couldn't figure out how to use the things." I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, thank you," because I was just like my stomach was turning.
I know. I know. It's a horrible feeling. Um, so let's talk about shop promotion. and this is your Etsy shop, and I know you're doing some stuff outside of Etsy, and we're going to get to that. But how do you drive traffic to your Etsy shop? And is driving traffic to Etsy a priority now that you have your own website? And for anyone who wants to check out Alison's website, I will have links to them in the show notes for this episode. But you can jump over there while you're listening. Alison Clare philanthropy.com, and it's CLARE. I should just spell the whole thing out, right? It's ALISONCLAREPhilanthropy.com. That's one of her websites, and I will have a link to it in the show notes for this episode. But let you answer, Alison.
I don't remember what your question was. Oh, how do I drive traffic?
Yeah.
I'll say I feel like I have a lot of learning of how to drive traffic to my shop using social media and other sources, and I don't really know what the ratio generally is for folks. But when I first got started, and I haven't been keeping as close of an eye on it now, I would look in the stats on Etsy and look at the search terms used, and was very intentional about, keeping an eye on that and saying, oh, like this is what these people are looking for, but I haven't created that product yet. So let me create that. Let me make sure I'm adding those tags to my individual products.
Yeah.
And I named my shop on Etsy. It's actually called Nonprofit Fundraising, because I figure if you're looking for anything nonprofit fundraising related, those are the first two words you'd probably type in the search term. And that's been really helpful with my traffic.
Oh, I just realized that because I've been reading the banner in your shop, but you're right. Your shop name is Nonprofit Fundraising.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
At first, I was going to go with like a cute name and call my Etsy shop Philanthropy Babe, but I figured no one would be Googling that. So,
okay. I have to ask though, how did you land on Philanthropy Babe?
I don't even really remember why. I just, there's all these like boss babe, manifestation babe, all of these things out there. And I was like, well, hold on. I want to have something like this, but what's my niche? And then I was like, well, it's what I do. Like, I'm a nonprofit fundraiser. It's philanthropy. I talk about philanthropy at work all of the time, on how important it is to build that culture. So I was like, I'm just going to be playful and fun. I've been reading, I'm on the second round of it, Julia Child's, The Artist Way, or Julia Cameron, The Artist Way, and just like have been learning how to just embrace my playful side and allow her to come out. So that's not as Philanthropy Babe. I know it's silly, but I kind of love it. So
I like that. I do. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about driving traffic to your store. How do you come up with new ideas for what to create? And I think you already mentioned one, which is really brilliant, looking at your stats and seeing what people are looking for. But any other ways that you come up with new items to list for sale?
Yeah, I'd say the number one new way is just through my work. I'm director of philanthropy for a domestic violence and sexual assault service agency, and it's wonderful. And as I've been going through the year, there's life cycles, and there's like a yearly cycle for fundraisers. So as I'm creating things for work, then it sparks things in my mind. I'm like, oh, like I could templatize this. Like, oh, so, in January, I'm going to send a letter out to all of our donors to thank them for their cumulative giving for the year, because I need that for their tax purposes. So like, as things come up, I'm like, oh, like I should make a template for that, because there's going to be people who need to do this that would probably prefer to, have a template to start from as opposed to scratch. So just through the life cycle of the year, as things come up, I'm like, oh, I could sell this to my customers too.
It's so nice that what you do for work actually feeds and helps fuel your business.
Yeah, and it's vice versa too. It's weird almost. Like,
Really?
as I've been building this out, I've been learning how to automate things and streamline things and make and as I'm learning like through the customer experience of like more of transactional relationships,
Mm-hmm.
it's helping me like remove friction or make better donor experience. It's making me a better fundraiser. I don't really know how to describe it, but I think it's because I'm making things and I'm trying to teach others
Yeah.
how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it's like I'm becoming more confident and like learning how to be better
Yeah,
at what I
that's
do as
so
well.
good.
Yeah, it's cool.
And speaking of expanding what you're doing, you're now working on some video courses too, right?
I am.
What are
Um,
those about?
yeah, so I have my first 2 courses online, and I'm starting my baby steps, as I grow confidence and skills it's called Raise, the Fundraising School. So Philanthropy Babe does 2
Oh,
things. She has the fundraising shop, and now she's building up the fundraising school. So I'm taking whether that's like looking at the templates and I'm going to be including those as part of the courses. So say I have something on donor stewardship. Well, I have a lot of templates on like this is how you can make a thank you call to a donor. This is a thank you letter to someone who made their first ever gift to your organization, and talk
oh
about like
yeah.
how important it is that those initial touch points of practicing gratitude is one of the best fundraising tools you can have because you're developing relationships. So I'm building courses about various topics, and yeah, it's fun. I'm definitely like stretching myself and I'm gaining confidence and figuring out how to record things.
Yeah.
um, but that's kind of my goal for this coming year is to have more and more courses up online for folks.
Well, congratulations
Oh,
on that.
thanks.
Did you decide to go into education because you were getting a lot of questions about things and you just thought it's easier to just package it?
No, not necessarily for that. I can't I just want to. I think I just have a desire. It just sounds
Yeah.
fun. And it's kind of I feel like right now I'm holding that space between like, oh, this is so fun and I'm figuring out and I'm excited and I also like feel super nervous, like where you can almost feel it in the roots of your teeth. And I always feel like when I have I'm like,
Whoa.
oh, this is something that I have to do. Like there's something in me that's like, do this, build this. So I'm just following. I'm listening to that and continuing to build from there.
I love that description you just said, in the roots of your teeth. Like that's deep.
Yeah.
So what platform are you using and how did you pick the platform to use to host your website and then also
Mhm.
the upcoming school?
All right, I've got a couple different platforms going on here. So the school is like very new endeavor. For my website for AlisonClarePhilanthropy.com, I'm using Wix.
Okay.
But I do have the fundraisingshop.com as well, and that's a Shopify store.
Okay.
Um, So I'm like learning, a whole nother level of SEO and driving traffic because
Yeah.
Etsy, is such a great marketplace
Hmm.
and people feel very comfortable making transactions on it. Whereas on an independent website, you don't quite have that as much.
Yeah.
Um, as for my courses, right now I have a course on Skillshare.
Okay.
Yep, and I have 12 students on that.
What?
Yeah. And I have one course that's on grassroots fundraising. It's an introduction of, to fundraising. And then I have 2 courses on, I might say it wrong, Udemy.
Oh yeah. Like, don't look at me. I say it
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah, so I have 2 courses on
Yes.
udemy.com
Yeah.
as well. And so I'm using third parties where there's already a built marketplace. My vision is to,
Smart.
eventually have my own as I kind of, get more comfortable with it, but
Yeah.
granting myself grace that there's so much I want to do, but I also pour so much of myself into my full-time position. So just
Yeah.
kind of finding the balance there because I am mindful of how much creative energy I have to spend. 'Cause I feel like I have limited dollars of that. So I'm intentional with where I put it.
Okay. I like that. Now, for the ones, the two sites that you built yourself, so Alison
Mhm.
Clare Philanthropy.com and also the fundraising shop, Which of those two platforms, I guess Wix and Shopify, did you find to be more intuitive and easier for
Oh,
you to get up and running with?
I feel like I almost cheated on this. So I did the Wix myself. That was, pretty easy for me to do considering like I do a lot of stuff online and I have
Yeah.
for a long time. Shopify and setting up digital downloads on Shopify and how to do that. I was like, I don't even know where to start. So I hired someone on Fiverr to do it for me.
Oh,
And I'm so grateful that I started to like dip into allowing myself to take some of the money that I've earned and
mm,
invest it back
yeah.
in. So I was like, I don't have the juice to like learning curve this Shopify thing. So it
Yeah.
cost like $250 and they built it and I have like 70 products on there and now it just flows when people come and I was like, "Oh, that's so wonderful."
And it's
So
beautiful too.
oh, thanks.
Yeah. Because all your branding flows together. Etsy and your website and the shop site too. It's all cohesive.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
nice to hear someone say that. I'm like, I built myself a brand kit to make sure I like stay in my brand kit. So
Did you? Like
yeah.
on Canva?
Yeah, yep, on Canva.
Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, so it does work. I always see that whole brand kit thing. I'm like, I don't have time to pick my colors.
See, it's funny. I'm the opposite. I'm like, so I wore a uniform every day until I was 18. I still like I have like the same three types of outfits I wear to work every day. I don't want to have to decide on things like that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
ugh. So I like just being able to be like, okay, I have these three options.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can handle this.
I like that. Um, what would you say, Allison, are some of the things that you think you've done that have helped you to gain the successes you've found so far?
Ooh, I think well, I definitely think looking at the terms that people were using, that was really, really helpful. You mentioned branding. I did rebrand everything in August.
Okay.
And I'm in my first year, so I don't have year over year
Right.
data. So I don't know. I'm still learning like what the flow of the year looks like. I had my two biggest months right after I rebranded. Um
Mm,
and
really?
yeah, and I was like, "Oh, was it because of the new branding cuz things like look more cohesive and nice like my
Yeah.
initial front images cuz images for digital products are hard."
Yeah.
Um it's like how
There's
do you
only
share
so
what
much you can do.
exactly, yeah, it's like feels busy. Um, so I don't know how much was the rebranding or how much was just the cycle in the year, um, makes it to where more people would be buying
Yeah.
nonprofit fundraising templates, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like that. That makes sense. Based on your year so far of selling on Etsy, what features do you find the most helpful? And on the flip side of that, are there any features you would love to see on the platform?
Ooh, um, I'm sure a lot of shop owners will say this, but I love looking at the stats. I'm like obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So that's helpful, and I also like digging into it a little bit more of seeing like where my offsite customers are coming from.
Hmm.
I feel like I have more to learn there and more I can dig in there, but those like little videos you can have your product and you can have like a 5-second silent video or maybe it's a little
Yeah.
long. Yeah, so I made those for some of my Etsy products and then I uploaded them to YouTube. So like and they're just like little like 2-second things on YouTube, maybe 10 seconds, I don't know. And they're silent, but it drives traffic. So
Really?
I'm like, oh, so maybe that was worth it. Yeah. So like if you have those videos, put them on YouTube and use your tags. Like it drives traffic.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
No,
Hold on,
no, no. That's
Allison.
it.
Wait. So your listing videos, you then created a YouTube channel and then you post your listing videos on YouTube and then it drives traffic to
Uh-huh.
Etsy?
It's the most boring YouTube, like, channel ever, because if you go to it, you're like, "This chick just has 30 videos that are 10 seconds silent about these templates. Like that's it, but it drives traffic.
Wow, it serves the purpose. I mean, or at least it
Yeah.
serves a good purpose. So who
Uh-huh.
cares? Because
And they're
yes,
already
I
videos
think
that are built, so.
you said what?
Oh, and the videos, if you're using them on Etsy, they're already built.
Right, right. I just never thought to repurpose those. And those videos, even though they're silent, I think still the fact that they're short and quick and well, I don't know if they loop on YouTube. I don't know if you can make them loop. But sometimes that's enough to attract someone's attention and say, what's this about?
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently it drives clicks. That's
Yep, it
excellent.
does.
That's the first time I've heard of YouTube being a traffic driver. I think that's a gem right there. So, do you have any advice for newer sellers who are still trying to find their way on the platform, make their way around on the platform? What would you tell those or that particular seller?
Say there might be a couple different things. Like I'm really big on being introspective, and like granting yourself curious grace and looking at like what are the blocks? Is it, a something where it's like logistical and learning how to navigate where to click, where and how to do, X, Y, and Z. Um, and just realizing and like letting yourself check back reflectively of, okay, I, just figured out this really frustrating thing. But then in a month, you look back and you're doing 3 levels of more complicated stuff and just like acknowledging that and like being grateful for yourself that you're doing it. I don't know if that sounds silly, but I do that to myself all the time because I'll be frustrated with something and I'll step away, then I'll go back and be like, wow, you know what? I like look what I built.
Yeah.
And those little moments that's the juice, that's the fuel that can keep you going.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. I feel like it's easy to say, like, just be brave and go for it and put it out there. But I have to tell myself that all of the time.
Right? Yeah.
And, but I think the more we do it, it's like a little muscle that you flex. And the more you do it, the better it gets. And
Yeah.
like, just got to go for it.
Absolutely. I really like that you said that because I hadn't thought that through until you just said it. I was having a conversation with one of my sisters and I was like, oh, complaining about something I wasn't getting and just I was
Mhm.
frustrated. And she was like, can you do this? I said, yes. Can you do this? I said, yes. Can you do the other
Mhm.
thing? I said, yes. She's like, look at all the other things you can do. Can you just appreciate that you can do something instead of harping on your frustration that you can do this thing? And it did make me feel better. So thank you
I
for
think that
sharing that.
energy shift as well then helps you figure it out
Yeah.
when you're being, you know what I mean? You're
Right.
like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah. You're like, well, my brain can work, so maybe I can
Yeah.
figure this out. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What tools, if any, have you found to be really helpful in running your business and or your Etsy shop and just,
Mhm.
doing what you do?
I guess I feel like I don't use a ton of tools. Like I use Microsoft Word. I change things into PDFs, so Adobe, but I don't actually edit on Adobe myself.
Yeah.
And then Canva. I can't. Like Canva is just so wonderful. And one thing that's really really cool about Canva is they have a Canva for nonprofits program.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So all of my customers, if they're a 501c3 or they're, a health service organization, they have a couple other categories. They get Canva Pro for free. So I just
Excellent.
yeah, I think that's cool. So I have like a little flyer that sends to all of them like if you're a nonprofit, like you need to just get this resource. And it's
Yeah.
going to change so much for you because it's so easy to use.
Yeah. It's pretty fantastic. The more I dig
Mhm.
into Canva and the more I learn, I'm just like, whoa, this tool is powerful.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And a content planner. So you can like pre-schedule social media content on it as well, in addition to creating all of these other
Yes. I
things. So
recently just saw that too. I haven't
yeah.
used it yet, but it looked very
Ooh.
useful.
It's really fun. Like you can build out content like weeks or months in advance. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, my social media is inspiring me. And you're like, wait, that was me like 3 weeks ago. And it feels good.
Wow. Wait, so you've used it, Allison?
Yep. Yep.
What social media platforms can you connect to it?
Oh gosh. You like I want to say all of them, but all of them I really know of. You
Wow.
can connect it to Pinterest. Believe you can connect it. I don't know if you can connect it to Twitter. I don't tweet. I don't understand Twitter. But Instagram, Facebook, you can connect it to a Facebook group,
Oh,
which is really
wow.
cool. So you can do it for group content. LinkedIn, there may be a couple others, maybe
Wow.
Tumblr as well. It's a great tool.
I really love that not Instagram, Canva is replacing a lot of tools that
Mm-hmm.
people have
Yeah.
lingering out there. Like a lot of stuff has come under the Canva hub. I recently recorded a tutorial video for someone, and I did it all in Canva. Like you can do the screen recording, you can do
Oh
the
yeah.
floating head, like when it's where it's just you, then you turn it into a presentation, you can add music, add transitions, edit, and it was the easiest thing.
It's so yeah, and it's so affordable. It's like
Yes.
$13 a month, like, for using the pro tools. It's
Yes.
yeah. I feel
And
like it's combining a lot of things that you could spend, like, hundreds a month.
yes. And just a quick tip for anyone, and I hope the Canva folks aren't listening, but if you start with the free account and then you do the free 30-day trial and then you don't pay and you wait like maybe a week or two, then they send you a coupon and you get like 10% off the annual fee. Just
Ooh,
FYI.
pro tip. Nice.
I mean, I don't know. It might have been a fluke, but that's what happened for me. But not because I was trying to game Canva, but more so because I was like, I really love the pro, but can I justify it? And just when I was trying to convince myself that, you know, when I was trying to justify it to myself, I got an email saying, hey, 10% or 15%, something off of an annual subscription. I was like, sold.
It's like having all of those, like, abandoned cart things in Etsy, but the Canva style of it. It
Yeah,
works.
exactly. Exactly. Alison, do you have an Etsy shop shout out? This can be another shop that maybe you like or you've shopped from, you like their products, or another seller that you just want to send some love their way.
I'm gonna give the shout out to the Joyful Gypsy gal.
Woohoo!
Absolutely. Like she's a watercolor artist. And she has been starting to sell some of what she has starting on Etsy, but she's selling them at a brick and mortar store and doing art shows with her cards, and she's making bracelets.
Oh, nice.
And she's doing it all by hand, and they're really beautiful, playful, sometimes funky design. So
Yeah.
definitely check out her stuff.
Will do. So I will have a link to the Joyful Gypsy Gals Etsy shop so you can go check her out. What's the best way folks can connect with you, and where do you want them to come look for you online?
I guess come look for me at Philanthropy Babe. On Instagram and Facebook, on LinkedIn, I'm Alison Claire Baldry. Feel free to connect with me there. Um, and I guess my email is hello@philanthropybabe.com. Oh my gosh, it would be the coolest thing if you listen to this and then like send me a message. So like, say hi.
Please do. Somebody message Alison. Let her know that you heard her on the podcast and you enjoyed this conversation. Also, we can't forget your Etsy shop and your websites.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like I have everything driving there. How did I not say go to my Etsy shop, guys? Check it out. If you're a nonprofit, check it out. Tell all your nonprofit friends that there's this great tool out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. definitely.
Yes. I will link to Alison's Etsy shop, but if you have your phone in your hand and you're in the Etsy app, you want to jump over there right now. It's nonprofit fundraising. So you can do a search for that. And I will repeat Alison's websites as well. But just know the links will be in the show notes for this episode. So if you are driving or something, just come to convome.com and they will all be there. This is episode 354, I believe. Yes. AlisonClarePhilanthropy.com. It's AlisonClarePhilanthropy.com. That's AlisonClarePhilanthropy.com. And then you can check out the fundraising shop at thefundraisingshop.com. Alison, when can we expect the fundraising school to launch?
Oh, well, I don't know if I have like a launch date in mind. So I do have my courses on Udemy and Skillshare.
Okay.
It's my goal to I have 6 more course ideas that are just like swimming in my
Whoa.
mind, waiting to get down on paper, waiting to get recorded, all the things.
Yes.
So I'll definitely be having more up probably in April or May.
Okay. Great. So, if we follow you at Philanthropy Babe on Instagram, will we be getting updates?
You will, definitely.
Okay. All right. I will have, of course, a link to Alison's Instagram handle, so you can go follow her there. I follow Alison, and I like her posts. They're very uplifting, and she just has a nice vibe. So check her out. Alison, thank you so much for doing this. I had fun talking to you, and I'm so impressed with what you're doing and how much you've done on Etsy. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. I was telling everyone all about it this week. So I'm like so excited and grateful to be here. So thank you for the conversation and the questions.
You are most welcome. And I thank you for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Please join me again for the next episode next week.